Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Neptune Sunday. It's your boy V Moss. Been a minute since we hopped on here, since our last episode, so a lot to catch up on. Let's just get right into it. So let's start with there's a guy named Jay-Z who did 3 crazy shows at Yankee Stadium, and I'm talking about that first one because I'm salty because I missed him. But obviously also because Virginia, Neptunes, Clipse were a part of those shows. So for those of you who have been following the show for a while, Justin Tinsley from ESPN is one of my good friends, and he last minute got media access to go on Saturday. So like when I woke up on Saturday morning and I saw how crazy the show was on Friday, like I really thought about like, let me just hop on the train and let me just get a ticket just to be in the energy. And I thought about it too much and I ended up not going. So of course when I woke up on Sunday morning and everybody's got a bunch of text messages and DMs to me talking about, oh, Pharrell came out, like obviously I was devastated to miss that. But then take it even further, Sunday, Pharrell comes out again with all the other guests, and on top of that, Clipse come out to do Grinding, which is crazy. So sorry I missed it, but like big picture, the positive is like, again, it's so dope as a kid from Virginia to see those guys continue to be on the biggest stages in music and culture. So shout out to them, shout out to Jay-Z. Speculated on the last episode we did about new Jay-Z music, and I feel like we get closer by the month, by the week. So hopefully it's on the way. And got a good sense to hope that there's going to be some music from P on there, so looking forward to it. Also, big news coming from the Neptunes world. Chad back outside, officially back outside. So Chad released his first solo single with Tierra Whack, came out January 23rd, I think. Which was dope. The song is dope. It's very high tempo, good energy. Love the response that he's getting from it. I love the song. I think it's a great song. I think putting someone like Tierra Whack on that song was a perfect combination. So happy to see that. Looking forward to hearing more music from Chad, whatever he's working on. Excited for it. He had one of the really dopest part about the moment was that he had a listening party in Virginia Beach that people were able to like be in that space and share space with him on the day that song came out. So super excited to have Chad back out doing music like that, and glad that people were able to support that in person back in their hometown in Virginia Beach. I unfortunately was not able to attend the event because at the same time we actually were hosting an event that we did in Norfolk for 20 years of Pharrell's In My Mind. So that was on the 25th. We had the event on the 23rd, but the end version on the 25th. So it was great energy, great crowd, a great conversation with Breeze Barker from Portsmouth, Todd Donovan, who's from Northern Virginia, but like is based in 7x7 now, and then the legendary DJ Fonts, who's been on 103 Jams in 7x7 for a long time. So good energy, good perspective, good conversation about the album and the impact of the album. And we didn't just talk about the music, right? Like we talked about it from the perspective of how it made us feel, how it kind of inspired us. Like obviously we know You Can Do It Too is like one of the major songs from the album, and a rallying cry for people like us, kids from Virginia, who have like been inspired by seeing Pharrell and Chad and Timbo and Missy and Skills and Magoo and those people in that generation to be able to set the tone for us to be able to follow in their footsteps, but also to dream our own dreams and figure out how to figure out what it is that we wanted to do and feel comfortable being a kid from Virginia and being able to feel like we could do whatever we wanted to do. So that was a great event. I'm thankful for everybody that came out to that. Go check out the YouTube video. It actually is technically on the Virginia Hip Hop Foundation's page, but it is collaborated with the Neptune Sunday page. So go watch that when you get a chance. Another really cool moment about that, Tyler Donovan, who I said was one of the guests in that talk about In My Mind, at the end of it, he just randomly went on the stream of consciousness message to Pharrell. We spoke to the camera talking about how much we love that album, but also we know that Pharrell doesn't like that album. He says he doesn't like it that much. But we posted that video, and crazy enough, Tyler, the creator, saw it and commented on it, and just he said something like he wished he knew us when this album came out, which is a really cool moment. Just not just for us, for what we do with Neptune Sunday podcast and obviously Virginia Hip Hop Foundation, but a special moment for Tyler Donovan, dude. Like, he's a really talented artist, really committed to the craft, but really in the culture, and to have him get that shout out on that post, I thought was cool too. So shout out to them. Shout out to both Tylers, Tyler Donovan and Tyler the Creator. Today is August 6th. It actually is 25 years since the release of the OG electronic version of In Search Of. Got on TikTok today and just said, it was a very quick video, but I just said, hey, like, I would love, can we get this on streaming? It's been 25 years, right? Like, the Spy Mob version is great. Shout out to Spy Mob. They're dropping new music, which is amazing. But the OG version has a different feel. It's got a nostalgic feel. Like, it's got a sound that's timestamp of that moment that we'd love to be able to have that in streaming. And I think, it's about time. So hopefully we can get that. All right. So got all that out of the way. The real reason we're here is tomorrow, August 7th, is actually going to be 25 years since Philly's Most Wanted, Get Down or Lay Down, one of my favorite albums from that era, a very underrated album and project as it relates to, the Neptunes Star Trek movement. And so, obviously, too, if you follow this show for a while, I used to live in Philly. I have a soft spot in my heart for Philly. I'm wearing my Temple T hat right now, on top of my crazy haircut, no lineup. But wanted to talk about this album because the songs mean something to me. Again, like, it is a perfect example of what was happening with the Neptune sound and how this album helped them continue to grow and continue to grow in the space of like doing like grimy street music. And so, and also, my boy TJ Baker was on the show, episode 11, talked about his experience being a Temple student, being from Pennsylvania, and actually DJing something on campus at Temple that he ended up unintentionally opening for Philly's Most Wanted. So go watch that episode. We talked a lot about Philly music and the Philly connection with the Neptunes on that episode. And my man Rich was on a couple, maybe like not this season, but the last season before. But he has some really cool stories. Rich from North Philly. So go check that episode out too. But yeah, a strong connection between me personally, but also just Philly, VA to PA is a real thing. And this relationship between Neptunes on this album and working with Philly's Most Wanted is a big part of that. So just some quick background. Both of those guys, Boo-Bonic and Mr. Have really kind of like, I wouldn't say faded, but they haven't really been in the public eye that much since they stopped making music. Bonic more so, like, because he's now thriving in the visual art world, which is amazing. His artwork is amazing. For those of you who don't know, he's also self-taught as an artist, so just did something as a creative outlet for him that was therapeutic, and then he turned it into like these pieces that, like, he's an actually talented artist. So shout out to Bonic for pivoting in that way. And speaking of the art, like in 2023, Bonic and Pusha did a collab with Genius and some tequila, I can't remember the name, but Bonic painted a picture for Malice that was inspired by for Pusha, based on one of Pusha's lyrics. And so they sat down as part of the promo for this and had a conversation about, just reminiscing about how they met and how their friendship development and how their friendship has continued over the years, which I thought was dope to hear. So go check that out as well. Mr. Man, aka N.E.R.D, has really been off the grid. Like, doing some research and just looking at some stuff to get ready for this. Like, I really stumbled upon this interview that he did with The Untold, and that was in 2024. So literally before that, I don't think there had been any, and I hadn't seen him if there had been, but this was the first interview I had seen of him talking about this time in his life and this career as part of Philly's Most Wanted. But he gives some more insights into their origins. Like, they met when they were kids in Southwest Philly and became close friends like quickly. They ended up doing their first rap show like when they were like 11, 12 years old. So they got started early And then just, we're around Philly. Mr. said he went to jail a couple times as a teenager too, so like that helped, not helped, but that was in the, some obstacles that they had overcome and part of their story. But something that I really appreciated about his Untold interview was that he kind of cleared up this whole Beanie, Sigel, Rocafella story a bit, because I think the way that Beans told it, or the way that people interpreted what Beans was saying, was like they were going to Rocafella so Philly's most could get a deal, but really the way that Mr. tells it is like, by that point, at that time, they had been building a relationship with the folks at Rocafella for a while, and they were taking trips up there every now and then. And once they got connected with Beans, because they believed in Beans, they just took him around with them while they were doing stuff in Philly, rapping music-wise. But then they just decided this one trip they were going to take Beans with them when they went to Rocafella. And it happened to be in, like, I guess it was like 97, 98, or something like that, when Jay was recording a week ago the song on Volume 2 with Too Short. And so that's when Beans had a chance to spit for them, and that's what ultimately led to getting the deal with Rocafella. So it was cool to hear, and that's my interpretation of based on what Mr. said. But it was good to hear that story, and obviously it's still a dope story either way, right? Just the fact that all those people are connected, especially the Philly connection and Rocafella is so strong. So it was cool to hear that story from Beans first of all, but then also to hear Mr. tell a little bit more about it and just how they even got connected with Rocafella in the first place. Said they, like, one of the first time they saw him, like, just ran into him in Cancun. So go watch that interview too, just to get some more insight into who they are. But back to the story about Philly's Most Wanted. They eventually signed with Atlantic, and they recorded the album, but then, like, just, record labels take their time to do, they're on their own time. So, it was about a year or so, or a while after the album had been fully recorded before it came out. And so I don't know if that slowed the momentum down, but, when you look at the lack of commercial success for this album, it really just feels like a mix of bad luck and kind of like some bad timing, and a little bit of mismanagement. Like when if people don't believe in your vision, like that's gonna, people not believing in your vision or believing you as an artist mixed with some bad luck and some bad timing, it just seemed like the odds were against them. So there was a Fader article in 2019 by Paul Thompson, and he made some really good points. He says, a quote, "It didn't help that the video for the big single was banned by BET for being too overt in its drug smuggling ethos. It probably hurt that it came out a month before the Blueprint. The Clipse feature came a year too early." Unquote. So what he's talking about is the single Cross the Border, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Video was banned on BET because they're literally like talking about crossing the border with drugs, and there's a little bit of that, but we'll get more into that in a second. Then literally he said the album dropped a month before Blueprint, and I think we talked about this on the album with TJ. Is like dropping a month before this. So we're talking August 6th, 2001, and then Jay-Z is coming and dropping the bomb that is the Blueprint on September 11th, on top of all of the crazy stuff happening in the world on September 11th. So you can imagine how both globally this album could get lost, but then like specifically in the rap and hip hop lane, it could get lost as well. So that's tough. And then we talk about the Clipse feature. This is August 2001, so we know that we would get Grindin' in 2002. And then the album would come in August 2002 from the Clipse. So, again, bad luck, some bad timing. But all that being said, for me, I think this is a really good, this is a really solid early 2000s East Coast rap album to me. And obviously I have a little bit of bias because I'm a fan of the Neptunes, and they produce 11 of the 18 songs. So it's basically a Star Trek album. But the combination of that and a combination of my appreciation for the Philly rappers from being a fan of Rocafella and those guys, that's why I like this album. So we'll get into the songs real quick. I'll mention all of them for the most part, but I'm really just gonna talk about the Neptune songs. Starting off the first song, Radical, which I think is it sets the tone. It's a kind of a grimy Neptunes beat, solid Neptunes production on that. The next song, Y'all Can Never Hurt Us, actually was the first single. And again, to talk about the label aspect of it, like, I don't remember ever hearing the song ever. Like, and maybe, I mean, it being the first single, like, I don't know. I never heard the song before until I listened to it all the way through on Apple Music a while back. So, but then I think that Suckas must have been like the street single or something, because there's promo cover art for it. It's funny. It's just like literally a white square, and it's got text on it that says "Suckas, don't be one." So that was really funny. But the fact that there's promo cover art for it like that, and there's a video, so a video that it's shot in Philly. To me, it gives me Philly vibes for like some of the other videos that we've seen in Philly from this crew, in terms of like the Philly scenes in Hot Damn. It also reminds me of like a Philly version of, just with the crowd of people behind them. It's like the Philly version of Family Rock and Roll, and I'm talking about video wise. And so P and Chad are in that crew of people behind them in that video, and then it's a really cool moment where like Boo-Bonic and Mr. are walking through this like seafood spot, and there's a bunch of people sitting around eating, and they're walking through in slow motion, and Malice and Pusha are behind them. It's very coded in Nas in the Opening the Belly. Very different version, but it's got that kind of energy. So it was good to see those guys in that video. In the interview with the Untold, Mr. actually said that was the time on that video shoot that the Star Trek crew got to meet Roscoe and got to meet Major Figures, which of course includes Ablava. So it's cool that, all this is connected, and still to be able to see those relationships that started 25 years ago still existing in 25 years later, and still being fruitful in terms of like creating great music, and everybody having positive things to say about each other is actually a dope thing to think about when we talk about like how hip-hop goes sometimes. So there's a skit after that, and then it's weird, it's wild, but then it goes a little bit too long, but then it goes right into Please Don't Mind, which Please Don't Mind, I've talked about this on the show a couple times actually. Just a story about how my godbrother was a DJ in Richmond, Virginia, and he DJ'd a house party not a house party, he DJ'd a graduation party for these two girls at my high school who were seniors, when me and my godbrother, the DJ, his little brother, he and I were in 9th grade, so these girls were in 12th grade. And so we got to go to the party, and we were with all these upperclassmen from our school and from the community that we know that. But I just remember, I've said this before, just like the energy and the reception that Please Don't Mind got in this space in Richmond, Virginia, like is one of the reasons why I became a fan of this group and a fan of this album, especially once I made the connection to them working with the Neptunes and having so many songs with Neptunes on this album. And again, I said my boy TJ talked about that, so go watch the episode. TJ, he talked about how he had to fill in for them, and how Please Don't Mind sent the crowd going crazy at that party at Temple on campus. So next song is Philly Celebrities. This is one of my favorites too. Like it's a smooth, like nice change of pace. Really solid Neptunes joint production on this song. Mr. has a line on there that's in the first verse. He's like, "We're going to make changes, listening to Phyllis Hyman." And that just got me thinking about, just again, my personal just like appreciation for Philly music and how deep that goes. Like, obviously I talk about all the time, growing up in Rocafella. So I'm a fan of Beans and Freeway and State Property as a whole. Big fan of what the Roots did. Love Eve, right? So, and just the connection that all those people, like the connection between D'Angelo and that whole crew with the Roots crew, and so all of that is important to me. But then I thought about like Phyllis Hyman, right? Like Phyllis Hyman's from Philly, and my mom listened to a lot of Phyllis Hyman when I was a kid. Like, I don't know if it's because my mom spent some time in living in Trenton, so maybe that's where she picked up on the Phyllis Hyman like music there. But I don't remember hearing Phyllis Hyman on the radio. I just remember hearing Phyllis Hyman at my house because my mom played all the records. But shout out to Phyllis Hyman. She was super talented from Philly. Go check her out if you're not familiar. And one thing I want to talk about, another really cool thing about Phyllis Hyman is like back when I used to make beats, because I used to listen to all these Phyllis Hyman songs with my mom. One of my favorite sample flips when we were making beats in college was a song by Phyllis Hyman called "Be Careful" that we flipped. That was dope. Maybe one day I'll find that and play it for y'all. But anyway, so after Philly Celebrity is Lady's Choice. How many is that now? So if we go Suckas, Please Don't Mind, it's a skit in there. But then Philly Celebrities, and then now Lady's Choice. That's 4 Neptune songs in a row. Lady's Choice is another one of my favorites. Shout out to Tammy Lucas on the hook on this one. There's like a little I guess it's a Triton keyboard riff or something like that sounds a little bit like a Sega Genesis game. I think I'd say it probably gives me that part of Lady's Choice reminds me of Golden Axe. So all you old 90s kids that played Sega, played Golden Axe, you hear that. Let me know if you hear that in Lady's Choice, the inspiration for that on Lady's Choice. All right, so now here it is, Cross the Border. The second single, which to me in my mind was the first single. The video being banned on BET, I don't think I knew that at the time. But reading about it, it's just unfortunate, right? Like the video doesn't seem that bad to me. And it's like if that was the one, there's only really one part in it that's really like, okay, or overtly like, oh, they're trying to talk about drugs. Where they could have just taken that part out and it wouldn't have made a difference. But at that point, I just feel like, yo, like let's figure it out. What can we do to change it so the video, because you need the video. In 2001, you need the video to help push the single, right? Like it's very important. You need it in rotation on BET, MTV, VH1, whatever. And to me, I guess looking at it now for the first time in years, it just doesn't seem as crazy to me. But we also see a lot of crazy stuff on TV and on the internet every day now. So maybe I'm just a little bit numb to it. But Khalees and Latrell are in the video too, which is dope. I'm not sure. There's no real credits about who's singing the hook. I think it could be either of them, but I'm not sure. Would love if you know the answer to that question, or Khalees or Latrell, if you see this, someone tell me who it is, or someone like Pharrell, if you see this, someone tell me who's singing the hook on that. But the next song after that is Dream Car. So another Neptune song in a row. Dream Car is probably my least favorite of the Neptune songs. It's not bad. It's just like it's not as catchy as the rest of them to me. I think the beat is cool, but it's not as catchy as a song. The next song after that, after a skit, there's a skit, The Reason, and then there's another song, What Makes Me, and then it gets to be probably my favorite song on the album, which is Suckas Part 2. This is basically like Philly remix to Super Thug, to me, which is like, it's a dope. The energy on it is dope. Obviously, like the Beanie feature on it brings that whole story back, of like just being connected with Beanie that we talked about earlier. So to have them be on the same, have Beanie be the feature on the song was dope. You know, and I love one of Bonic's lines on there, which is like, a perfect timestamp for sports fans, right? He says, I'm at the Sixers game, seat close enough to trip Kuckoc, which is a very specific timestamp because for those of you who are sports fans that know Toni Kuckoc played with the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan for that second three-peat, and after that, he ended up getting traded to Philly to play with, of course, Virginia's finest, Allen Iverson. But Kukoc barely played like a full season. It was like half of one season and half of another season. So, like, this is a quick, like you said, it's a quick timestamp to know when this is happening and what he's talking about. If you know, you know type shit. But, yeah, Suckas Part 2, I think that's probably my favorite song on the album. After that is Street Tax, a really good collab with, hold on, let me make sure that's right. No, there's a song after Suckas Part 2 called The Game. Then there's Piece of Pie, which I think is a skit, which I think I skipped. And then Street Tax is after that. And Street Tax is a really good collab with the Clipse. The way they rap and the continuity they have on that song, it's like they could have been a group, the four of them. So check that one out. That's one of my favorite songs on the album too. It just makes you think about how intertwined their careers are. And Pusha and Bonic alluded to this when they talked about that, when they had that talk for Genius. Just they both dealt with the label drama, just having similar styles in their rapping styles, but them all obviously them working together and having the Neptunes be this connector piece to these two different groups who are very similar but also very different. You know, I think this song made me think about that when I listened to it today. It's good that they're, you know, Bonic, and specifically as we know, Bonic and Push are in a good spot. It's good to know that energy is still there because, you know, I think they both made it. I think Mr. talked a little bit about this, and I think Bonic and Push alluded to it a little bit too. Is just to make it clear to people who think there are some naysayers who say Pusha and Malice came and pushed them out, when that's not the case. Like, they had an album first that didn't get released, and then they ended up, Neptunes got with Philly's Most Wanted and helped put this project out, and then it was the Clipse turn. But it wasn't, you know, it was nothing on the Star Trek side, nothing on P side that was like, yo, we need to have them. Nah, like, everybody was in a good space on this album, and it just, the industry part of it is what ultimately affected, you know, what happened with Philly's Most Wanted. But Street Tax, love that song. There's some other unreleased songs that have both of them on it, so go check out it. I think Coca Leaf is out there. Go check those. Go on do your Googles, try to figure out if you can find some of those unreleased songs. Just more examples of them working together is dope to listen to. And then after Street Tax is a song called That Bitch, which is actually produced by Just Blaze. And then the last song on the album is Cross the Border Remix, which features Pusha, who at the time was still going by Terror, T-E-R-A-R. And it features a guest spot from Fabulous as well. So, like I said, I think this is a solid album. Again, I'm super biased by the fact that, you know, I'm a Neptunes guy and really appreciate, you know, what this album means to their career. And it sucks that they didn't get to do more, right? Like, and I don't necessarily mean more with the Neptunes, I just mean more in general. They had another album that came out in 2004 because they switched labels, and I think I remembered the single, but that was pretty much it from that. But again, glad to see Mr. doing well. Glad to see Bonic out here crushing it as a visual artist and doing stuff. I think he always tries to do, or they always get him to do an art installation at Roots Picnic, which is dope. So go check out his art. Like I said, go check out the interviews from Mr. just to get more of the backstory that you may not have heard about the origins of Philly Most Wanted. Before we go, I'm going to say my top 3 Neptune songs from this album. I'm gonna go 1, Suckas Part 2. 2 is Please Don't Mind. And 3, I gotta choose between Ladies' Choice and Philly Celebrities. I'm gonna go Philly Celebrities. So 25 years of Philly's Most Wanted, Get Down and Lay Down. It's crazy that I've been doing this podcast long enough that we're hitting the next 5 years anniversary of some of these albums, like we did In My Mind in our first season. So to do something again for it last week or 2 weeks ago was crazy. So I'm just super thankful. I appreciate everybody that keeps listening to what we got going on with Neptune Sunday podcast. But also, if you're also tapped into what we're doing with the Virginia Hip Hop Foundation, got a lot of cool stuff happening on the way with that. Make sure to follow those pages too as well. If you are aware, like, it's a nonprofit that we started to celebrate all the impact that people from Virginia have done in hip hop and hip hop culture. But our goal is to build a museum exhibit in the next 3 to 5 years. So going through the process right now, getting some grants for that. Hopefully have some big announcement around that soon. So again, thank you so much for tapping in. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. This is a big year. I feel like more is to come. I'll try to be better about getting on here to talk about some more new stuff, because we said Chad's back outside. P's been killing it. T.I. Let Him Know was a smash earlier this year. The Lil Baby song is doing numbers right now. So I'll try to get back here and talk more as new music comes out. But in the meantime, go check out Get Down or Lay Down. 25 years, Philly Most Wanted. Check y'all next time. Peace and love.